Runnin' with the Devil, a rock and roll adventure. Part 12. Did you see that? I said into the darkness. See what? Ricky said, lighting his lighter and holding it up in the air. Stephen, Corey, and Derek all did the same. The room became dimly lit, and looked like a scene from a rock concert. I didn't have a lighter, so I just stood there. Where's your lighter? Stephen asked me. Oh, right. Never mind. Did you see that? That black figure standing in the kitchen, I stammered out, to no one in particular. Oh, you mean Johnny, Corey said, smirking, at least that's what we call him. After Johnny Cash, you know, the man in black. He don't hurt nobody, so we just leave him alone. There is something about Johnny Cash's music, that metalheads go crazy for. Folsom Prison Blues, Ring of Fire, One Piece at a Time, just to name a few. They might be considered country music to most people, but, damn, those songs rock. Anyway, yeah, we only see him when we're completely toasted, Derek said. You must have caught a contact high or something, dude. What? Are you kidding me? I thought to myself. The sound of thunder roared in the distance, as the sky became clearer, and the room once again filled with sunlight. All four of them extinguished their lighters, and put them back in their pockets. That was one wicked-ass storm, man, Stephen said, came right out of nowhere. Suddenly, the power came back on. Yeah man, Derek shouted, rock and roll, then howled like a wolf. The other three followed suit, and so did I. For the first time, in a long time, I actually felt like I belonged. Yeah man, you're one of us now, Derek said, and high-fived me. I smiled. I then looked around the room. If these guys actually made a deal with the old man, I thought, wouldn't they all have something snake-skinned? But there was nothing, everything was normal looking. Derek then pulled another joint out of his front right pocket, lit it, hit it, and then passed it to Corey. I'm getting another beer, Ricky stated and ran to the kitchen. Get me one too, Stephen yelled. Plug your gear in over there, dude, let's jam, Stephen said excitedly, as he twirled his drumsticks between his fingers. I plugged my amp into the wall socket, plugged in the guitar, strapped it up, and stood there. What are we gonna play? I asked. Anything you want, man, Ricky said, swallowing his beer, handing Stephen his, putting down his bottle, and picking up his guitar. Haven't you ever jammed out with your friends before? No, I don't really have any friends, except you, I said, sounding like a complete loser. Hey man, whatever shell you've been living in, we're about to bust that fucker wide open, Derek said. You're one of us now, you ain't just in a band, you are in this band. We don't care what you look like, we don't care what you do, we don't care what you don't do, we just wanna have some fun and play some kick-ass rock and roll, right, guys? Yeah, they all said in unison. Derek actually spoke like a normal person, not nearly the pissed-off guy that I met in the church. Count it off, Stephen, Derek said. Stephen then hit his drumsticks together, and yelled out, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. He began playing a rhythmic drum beat. Derek looked at me, and said, feel the rhythm, as he held his bass up, and thumped it to the same rhythm as the drums, nodding his head as well. Ricky started playing in rhythm. Corey began vocalizing. I stood there letting the music engulf me. I began playing, going along with the rhythm. I really started getting into it. Feeling all the sounds, of all the instruments, coming together, to form a symphony of emotion within myself. I was the happiest I'd been in a long time. Well, except for my time with Susan, that is. I was so happy, I actually thought I was going to cry. But I wasn't going to do that in front of these guys. That would be a big mistake. We all jammed for about a half hour, everyone throwing solos in here and there. I couldn't get the smile off my face. Anyway, after our jam session, we all sat down in the living room. You sure you don't want something to drink, dude? Ricky said to me. I just saw a ghost, and I may be stoned. I thought to myself, I could really use another cup of coffee, I replied. We don't have a coffee pot, man, but there's a jar of that instant shit in the kitchen cabinet. It was left behind from the previous tenants. I don't know how long it's been in there, dude, but it's all yours, man, Corey said, taking another hit. Cool, something's better than nothing, right? I said. I got up and walked to the kitchen, found the coffee in the cabinet, grabbed an old styrofoam cup sitting on the counter, dumped it out, rinsed it out, filled it with water, and put it in the microwave for a minute and a half. The timer went off. I took it out of the microwave, put a spoonful of coffee in it, and stirred it up. There was no milk in the fridge, but there was a large canister of sugar on the counter, so I drank it black with sugar. Instant coffee really sucks, but beggars can't be choosers, right? I then walked back into the living room, and stood there. I feel like blowing some speakers, man. "Hey Mikey, what do you want to hear?" Ricky asked. "I don't care," I replied, "as long as it rocks." "Motley Crue it is," Ricky said, throwing up the horns with his right hand. We all did the same, a little bit of shout at the devil. He turned the volume up to 10, and then hit play on the tape deck. It was so fucking loud, it was great. We all started speaking along with Nicky Six, as he said the lines to in the beginning, the intro to Shout at the Devil. The song began, we all started headbanging and thrashing around, singing the words, and screaming, "Shout, shout, shout." When the song ended, Ricky hopped up, and turned the volume down a little, as Looks That Kill began to play, then asked, "Did you bring your songbooks with you, man?" I took a drink of my coffee, and said, "Yeah, they're in the car." I jumped up and ran to the car, opened the trunk, grabbed both bags, and shut the trunk. I saw Johnny standing in the attic window again when I looked up. I waved to him and ran back in the house, a bag in each hand. I opened the songbook bag and dumped them on the floor. "Damn, dude. That's a lot of songs," Corey said. "Let me see one." "Me too," said Derek. "Me three," said Ricky, snickering. I gave all of them a book, even Steven. "These are pretty good," Derek said. "Damn good." I smiled. "Thanks," I said. "We'll start arranging some of these tomorrow," Ricky said. "Right guys?" "Definitely." "Yup." "Uh-huh," they replied at the same time. "That's awesome," I said. My happiness soon came to an abrupt end, when there was a loud pounding on the front door. "Sheriff's Department. Open the door," a voice yelled from the other side of it. "Shit. It's the cops," Corey said. "Hide the weed." Everyone scrambled, hiding the bag of weed under a couch cushion, spraying air freshener, dumping the ashtrays, and pouring the beer down the sink. Ricky turned off the stereo. "Mikey, you're the soberest. You answer the door," Steven said, as they all sat in the exact places they were before. "Be cool, man," Derek said. Another series of loud pounds on the door startled me. "Sheriff's Department. Open this door, now," the voice yelled even louder. I opened the door. Reggie, the town sheriff, was standing in the doorway. "We got a call complaining about blaring music coming from this resi. Lord have mercy, you boys having a party in here or what?" he said. "What?" Derek replied, smirking. "Very funny young man, now where is it?" Reggie said, in his best sheriff voice, as he walked in the house. "You can't just walk in here, don't you need a warrant or something?" Steven asked aggressively. "I smell marijuana, that gives me probable cause, which means I can come in and search this place, without a warrant, if I want to," Reggie replied with the same aggression. "Now sit there, and shut up." "He's right, guys," I said. They all just stared at me, including Reggie, who turned around to stare at me. "What?" I said. "I watch a lot of Miami Vice." Reggie turned back around and said, "Okay, last time, where is it?" No one said a word. "All right. Hands on the wall. Everybody, and don't move," Reggie instructed. Ricky and I ran to the wall. I thought about using my gift of want, but I decided to see how it played out. Anyway, Steven got up nonchalantly, and walked over. Derek and Corey looked at each other, smiled, jerked themselves up with a hop, and a fling of the hair, then walked like a supermodel to the wall. I had a feeling that they'd been through this before. Reggie started to search the living room area, moving furniture, looking in drawers, tossing my books in the air. He actually got down on his knees, turned on his flashlight and looked inside each one of the drums in the drum kit. Steven snickered, as Reggie continued his search. We were all standing there, hands on the wall. Ricky was to my left, Steven to Ricky's left, then Derek, and last was Corey. I turned my head to look at them, and that's when I noticed they all had the same snake tattoo on their right bicep. Before I could say anything, Reggie said loudly, "And there it is, under the couch cushion. It's always under the couch cushion. I should have looked there first." We all turned our heads to see Reggie standing there, holding the bag of weed, and smiling. "Let me guess, it's oregano, right? You boys should have just said no," he remarked. "All of you are going for a ride." "Sheriff Jackson to dispatch," he said into his shoulder mic. "Go Sheriff," a voice from the speaker said. "I need a patrol car to 19 Chestnut Street for transport, please," Reggie said. "Well, now I don't have to try and find a place to stay," I thought. Reggie then began a pat-down search of all of us, finding nothing except 2 joints in Corey's front right pocket. Now, you have to remember that this all happened during the Nancy Reagan Just Say No countrywide campaign against drugs. A small bag like that got you some serious time. Unlike in today's times, a little bag like that gets you a slap on the wrist. Anyway, the patrol car arrived, and the officer entered the house. "Give me your cuffs," Reggie said to her. I had never seen her before. She was blonde, and looked very similar to Heather Locklear's character in the TV show T.J. Hooker. She wasn't my type, but she was cute. Anyway, she did, and Reggie handcuffed Stephen and Corey together, and Derek and Ricky together. He then looked at me, and said, I don't have enough cuffs for you, but if you run, I'll shoot you dead, got it? Yes sir, but I didn't do anything, I replied. You don't have to son, you're guilty by association, he said. A controlled substance was found in a house which you were occupying. When said substance was found, by law, it belongs to all of you, and all of you will be charged with possession of a controlled substance. You can argue your case in front of the judge Monday morning. Now, everyone, show me some ID. I reached in my back pocket, took out my wallet and opened it, took out my license, and handed it to him. We're handcuffed together, how are we supposed to do that? Stephen asked. Boys, you gotta stop smoking that wacky weed, it's affecting your brain cells, use your free hand, Reggie said and shook his head. They did, and gave their licenses to him, except for Ricky, who only had a state ID. Reggie thumbed through them, and when he got to mine, he looked at the name and asked, Aren't you Gerald and Mary's kid? You drive that Mustang out front, right? Yes sir, I replied. I followed you through town a few days ago, he asked. Yes sir, I answered. Don't worry son, they'll take real good care of it at the impound, and the truck too, he said with a smirk on his face. You take these two, he said to the female officer, as he lightly pushed Stephen and Corey in her direction. I'll take these two, he said, as he grabbed Ricky by the arm, and let them out the door. The female officer followed with her too. My pops is going to kill me, Ricky whined. Obviously, forgetting that he was already dead. Anyway, let's go son, we ain't got all day, Reggie said to me, remember what I said. I followed closely behind them, after shutting the front door. The female officer loaded Stephen and Corey into her car. Reggie put Derek, Ricky, and myself in his Blazer, and drove to the police station. The female officer followed close behind. Now, when you think of police stations, you probably think of the police stations that you see on television shows, such as Law and Order, NYPD Blue, or even Chicago PD. But I'm from a small town. Our police station, back then, was an old two-story house, built in the 70s, converted into a police station. The jail cells were in the basement, the police station was on the main floor, and the courtrooms were on the top floor. Anyway, we arrived at the station. Reggie and the female officer led us down to the jail cells. I had been in the police station itself, on a field trip in junior high, several years ago, and I must say, it was still a very nice, neat, well-organized looking station. The jail cells, on the other hand, were far from that. Reggie and the female officer led us to the back of the station. Reggie then produced a slew of keys from his right hip, and unlocked the steel-barred door, which led to the jail cells in the basement. Don't we get a phone call or something? Stephen asked. Phone's broke, the female officer said. Then how did you get the call about the noise complaint? Derek asked with an attitude. Reggie quickly grabbed him by the front of his shirt, stepped in his face, looked him straight in the eye, and said sternly, phone's fucking broke. Got it. Derek shook his head nervously. Yeah, man, I got it, he replied. Reggie then told me to go first, and I did. I walked down the old wooden staircase. The rest followed. The smell of rotten sewage, mold, and urine filled my nose. How the smell didn't seep into the station, I don't know. Anyway, all five of us started to cough, as well as the female officer. Reggie seemed unfazed by it. There were 4 cells down there. 2 on the left, and 2 on the right, with a walkway in the middle. The exterior walls were made of cinder blocks, metal pipes lined the ceiling, which leaked slimy brown water into the jail cells. Various puddles of water covered the floor. There was a small window at the top of each cell, that I assumed were the basement windows, when it was actually a basement. There was an old beat-up desk, with a chair, at the bottom of the stairs, where a big, fat, Jabba the Hutt-looking guy sat, in a cop's uniform, eating. On the desk was an old black rotary phone, a small reading lamp, a notepad, and a styrofoam food container, with some nasty-looking brown and green slop in it, that the guy was eating. How he could eat with the smell was beyond me. Otis, the town drunk, was in the first cell on the left, most likely, sleeping it off. Some corporate suit monkey-looking guy was in the cell across from Otis, on the right. The other 2 cells were empty, until we were put in them. Corey and Stephen in one, Derek, Ricky, and myself in the other. Each cell had 2 fold-up cots, a small metal sink, and a round hole in the corner on the floor, about the size of a wall clock, with a roll of toilet paper next to it. I found out the hard way, what the hole was for, when Otis woke up and took a shit over the hole, in front of everyone. Don't give Tiny here any trouble, boys, and you'll all get along just fine, Reggie said. Tiny looked at us and smiled, that nasty green mess stuck in his teeth, and dropping out of the corners of his mouth. Yup, I think he said. I couldn't really tell with all that slop in his mouth. Good night, boys, Reggie said sarcastically, as he and the female officer walked up the stairs, Tiny checking her out as she did. He laughed, and then went back to eating. About an hour went by, the sun was beginning to set, and the cells were getting darker by the minute. There was still enough light to see though. Derek and Corey were both scratching at the walls, as cinder dust fell to the floor. Stephen was leaning up against the bars of the cell, singing, "I'm in the jailhouse now." Johnny Cash did a cover version of that song. I told you metalheads like Johnny Cash. Anyway, Ricky was laying down on the cot I was sitting on. I tapped him on the back and said, "Hey Ricky." He then sat up, and replied, "What, man? Why do you all have snake tattoos?" I asked. "I don't know, man. When we all crawled out of our graves, after making that deal with the old man, we noticed we had those tattoos. We can't figure out what they mean, or where they even came from," Ricky said. I sat there thinking about it. The old man's shoes were snake-skinned. I made a deal with the old man, and got a snakeskin guitar, just like my old friend Ricky. These guys made a deal with the old man, and got a snake tattoo. Then it hit me. They didn't get anything snake-skinned. They were snake-skinned. Okay, that makes sense, I thought.